Dear Boomers, here we are, the beginning of the new year, and we are still concentrating on what it takes to live a full life in 2026. Now, there is a quiet but powerful question hiding in the background of our lives. By the way, please subscribe to the channel. It's not a question about productivity. It's not a question about achievement. And it's not a question about fixing what went wrong. But the question is this: if you already know that living in the past keeps recreating the same future, why would you choose to continue with these lines of the same kind of thing day in and day out? Most of us were never taught that we have a choice. We were taught about endurance, and we were taught about responsibility. We were taught to be realistic. And we were taught that, well, if this is the way I always have been, this is the way I always will be. But realism, when rooted in memory, often becomes a prison. Today I want to talk about how something radical is in the air and deeply humane. How to live a new future now, not someday, not after everything is resolved, not after you have all your papers straightened up, not after you clean your house or clean your car, but when the fear finally disappears. Now is the time. And the loop we don't see as we continue on this journey, and for many of us, the future feels uncertain, but familiar. If we live in the same resentments, in the same unforgivenesses, in the same blame, then that is familiar. But because we are quietly rehearsing it every day when we think like this, and we can change our thinking, of course, but when we repeatedly return to old memories, especially stressful or traumatic ones, our nervous system doesn't know the difference between memory and reality. The body responds as if the past is happening now. And so the brain, trying to be efficient, predicts a future that looks just like yesterday. You can't blame the brain, it's just doing its job. This is how people end up saying nothing really changes. This is just how life is now. I don't expect much anymore. That seems so sad. Not because it's true, but because it's rehearsed, especially as we get older. This is the way a lot of older people think, the boomers and the seniors. The question that changes everything. Now, here's the question that changes the entire conversation. If you have access to all the possible futures, why would you keep choosing the one created by your past? We are the creator. Like Michelangelo creating the David, at each chisel at a time. That question is not spiritual bypassing. It is not denial. And it certainly is not blaming. It's an invitation to step out of memory-based living and into choice-based living. You are not required to forget the past, but you are no longer required to live there. There's a difference, and that's a difference that only we can figure out for ourselves, really. But it's quite simple. Maybe not easy, but simple. So the body must go first. Here is something most people miss. You cannot think your way into a new future. You must feel your way there. And that is done through meditation. The body is the unconscious mind, and the body only believes what it experiences emotionally. So, this is why affirmations often fail. The words say one thing, but the body is still living in fear, grief, resignation, and unforgiveness and unloving feelings. Change happens when the body begins to experience safety before it arrives, freedom before circumstances change, gratitude before circumstances change, peace before problems resolve, and meaning before proof appears. This is not pretending. This is training the nervous system to accept a new reality, and it's also training the brain to think in a new way. So this is like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Instead of obsessing over what went wrong, quote, you begin to emotionally inhabit what is possible, not with fantasy, but with presence, with awareness. You ask yourself, what would my body feel like if I trusted life again? How would I breathe if I believed something new was forming? Would I breathe through my heart? Breathe in and out through your heart. How would I walk if I knew I wasn't finished? And then gently, without force, you begin to live from that place. You inhabit it. You remember all day long. When the mood falls, you pick it back up through the breathing, through the heart. The body starts to accept it. The brain starts to reorganize. The future begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because you stopped resisting it and went with the flow, the flow. The most overlooked truth of all. Let's think about this. Here is the truth many of us discover later in life. And this is it. You do not become whole by becoming more. You become whole by releasing what no longer belongs to you. And we can look at old identities, old disappointments, old versions of yourself that were created in a survival mode, which is of fear and resistance and tenseness. Well, stress, cortisol. Now, this is not loss. This is initiation. And initiation is often very quiet. It looks like this: choosing peace over explanation, choosing curiosity over fear, and choosing presence over prediction. Let us think more about this. I'd like to offer you something very simple. No pressure, no striving, just this. Just this. For the next few moments, allow yourself to feel what a new future would feel like in your body. Would the pain disappear? Would it feel like it's alive again? Not the details and not the timeline, just the emotional tone. Your body is calmer, probably. Your body is lighter. And your body is more open. Let your body rehearse safety, and let your breath rehearse trust, and let your heart rehearse possibility. This is how the future begins, not in effort, but in allowance. Now, we're talking about 2026 and how we want it to go. And it's just simple. Maybe not easy because we're used to all of these habits. The present moment is not a waiting room. It is the creative center of your life. And the future is not something that happens to you. And we all hear that the future happens for you. It is something that begins within you. You are not too late. You are not behind. And you are not finished. This is what we need to work on all the time, not just this year, but all years. We are standing at the doorway between memory and choice. And the door opens right now, not when the office is paperless, when everything is organized, when you've cleaned your kitchen or the dishes. It begins. The door opens now.